Okay, so the recording is started. No more saying bad words or being rude. Not that anyone was. It's very awkward. Let's see. Vicious. Vicious. You're going easy, though. Let's see. This week we need to talk about desktops. I have, as of a minute or two ago, released a quiz about desktops. Please don't run off and take it. Please stay with me. And this is kind of the cornerstone of this class, is working inside desktop computers. And it might seem like the hardest part of the class if you're new to this. You know, Skylar, you can remember the first time you ever built a PC, when you finally put all the pieces in and you plugged it in and you hit the power switch. Were you 100% certain it was going to start up?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you were probably like, oh, please.
I was hoping and praying.
Yeah, I mean, computer manufacturers have made it as easy as they possibly can for us to build our own computers out of parts. All the parts many of the parts usually match. You can very easily find out if they do or not when you're building. It's a really wonderful, cool place to live in the computer building world these days. But it's not flawless, and we can mess it up at any point. So normally we would do our lab. Our lab will be tomorrow. I'm going to try and phone stream it. Simran, if you're around tomorrow, just so you can, even though you're not there. I don't know, have you ever been in room G102 at John A?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. It's just like 14 computers. It's on the first lower basement floor of the G building, down the hall from Rob's office. But it's a cool classroom.
Are we gonna be having class tomorrow?
Yeah, if they don't throw us out of the building, if nobody starts a fire.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we're going to still do the staggered start thing. There'll be a 5 p.m. and a 6 p.m., and I hope you remember which one you are. But I have it in an email somewhere if you forget. So desktops are the easiest type of computer to work on. Tablets, phones, laptops, they're all much harder because they're smaller and there's less room and the parts are more specialized. But desktops are where you begin. So what we'll do is we'll walk around the lab. We will get acquainted with where everything is. Everybody will maintain social distance at all times and keep their masks on. Damn it. And then we'll talk about a practice build assignment, which I'm going to give you guys here in a little bit. And it's a fun one. We start with a fun one. So when you first open a computer case, there's the CompTIA guidelines and there's the book guidelines. And that's mostly what we're looking at here. This idea of making notes for backtracking is a very good idea for most people. I'm not a very good note taker, but taking apart a computer is like a 20-step process sometimes, depending on how far you're going. So it can really help you to go, oh, first I had to undo this clip, then there were 5 screws, then I took out the hard drive, then there were 3 more screws, then I took out the memory. And then when you have these notes, when you're putting the computer back together, you can just go backwards, so that helps. Removing loose jewelry is good. I have never worn rings or anything on my hands. I don't even wear a watch because I'm a very clumsy person. And I learned very early on that if I have a ring on or a watch on, I will get it caught on something. I'll hook it onto things or I'll scratch it on the inside of a computer. Is kind of a sharp and unfriendly place. Staying organized is something I do take a serious hand in. I have a little tray that I store the screws in. I keep them separate so I don't mix them up. I try not to lose any pieces. Staying organized when you're taking apart a complicated thing is, of course, important. Hello, Matthew. Welcome.
I'm not sure how I work this.
You're working it just fine. I don't believe you. You sound absolutely confident. Welcome. Okay. Can you see the stream all right?
I'm on my phone, so...
Awesome. So it looks terrible. Cool.
I see a big black man.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, in the chat. No, you need to
Yes.
click. You need to click on me and watch my stream. That's just a JPEG.
Oh, okay.
And-
okay, here we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, the guy grilling sausage and pancakes or bacon and pancakes at his desk is my career goals. I want to be able to do that. That's not.
You don't see me, do you?
No, sir. We don't.
Awesome. I look bad today.
I have my camera off too. I don't think I've combed my hair particularly well. Okay, so moving on. Staying organized is very important. Don't stack boards on top of each other. A lot of these parts are sensitive and they can't just be piled on top of each other. They're not designed to be. They're internal components. Difference between an internal component and an external component is an external component is usually designed to sit on other things or have other things sit on it, like a mouse, a keyboard, the case. The monitor has a protective shell around it. They're protected. Internal parts have no protection versus being smashed or squished or ruined by other things. So you have to be careful with them. Not touching the clips. Yeah, we are organic creatures and exuding skin oils and stuff, just a thing we do. So we don't want to touch anything we don't absolutely have to inside. And you don't want magnetized tools inside because computers work on basically magnets and storing electrical charge. So be careful of that. Sharp edges. One of the things we have to be cautious of is it's pretty easy to cut your fingers or your hands when you're working inside a computer. Again, not designed to be a friendly place. So, static electricity, there's times of the year where this is worse. If you're in a carpeted room, it's worse. Lower humidity, if you're near plastic things, like you have a raincoat or you've just carried a bunch of plastic bags, that'll do it. My cat likes to run across the carpet and then touch my leg and zap the crap out of me. That can be bad for internal computer components. You can wear an ESD strip. You can make sure you ground by touching the inside of the case, the sort of just any metal part inside the case that's not the motherboard or not the graphics card, whatever. And then fabric softener sheets, they absorb a certain amount of static electricity. Okay. Different case sizes. This is kind of our standard. Most of the Dells that are in John A. Logan are almost all mini towers. It's a lovely little size. It fits a motherboard, power supply, and basic computer parts very well. You don't really need much more. So that's a mini tower. It's sort of what you expect. It's about 1.5 feet tall and 1 foot wide. And a mini ITX is a tiny little guy. Sometimes people build this for a TV computer or to save space on somebody's desk. It's very, very small, and it's not considered a tower. This was my idea of a really funny joke. A lot of times I make these slides late at night when I'm very tired. It seems really funny to me at the time. And then when I actually present it to you guys, I'm like, that's very dumb. So a desktop computer is just as it says. It's designed to sit on a desk. Now this one is upright, so it almost looks like a tower, but there's one clue that it is in fact designed to be a desktop and sit flat on the desk with the monitor on top of it. Can anybody spot that clue?
It's the little plastic pieces that sit on the desk.
The little feet. It has feet. And then it has a stand for one thing, but these feet. So you can rotate this down, lay it flat, set the monitor on top of it, and it's a nice space-saving design. Now, if you wanted to go smaller than mini, there's micro. A mini would be just slightly taller than this, not much. But you can see this is a full-size graphics card, and it takes up almost this whole side of this machine. They still found room for a CD drive, some USB ports up front, power supplies over here, and motherboard is probably crammed on the other side. Very small motherboard for this sort of machine. But if you wanted a living room computer to run your TV or a server for your house or something like that, this would be a nice case to build in. And then this you don't see so much anymore. The full-size tower, this can be 3 or 4 feet high. It's got room for massive motherboards, server-class motherboards, giant power supplies, multiple graphics cards. This is a big one, and you don't need this for most builds anymore. Again, that's the dark tower. And for a nerd cred, can anyone identify these towers? This left one, anybody?
I've watched Lord of the Rings. I've seen some of it. I'm bad with towers, man.
This is a disclaimer. Okay. What about the right one?
The Eye of Sauron tower.
Okay. I'll give you partial credit on that. This is Orthanc, where Saruman lived. This is the Dark Tower from the Stephen King books. And then this is Barad-dûr, Sauron's tower. This will not I don't think it's on the quiz. You never know with me. Probably not on the quiz.
Is
You know,
Golem
it's
an
in-
answer?
Now, Golem did spend some time in the dungeons of Barad-dûr. If we don't have time to get into that, but if you see dumb questions like this on my quizzes, I assure you they are bonus points, and you can ignore them or get them wrong. If you get them right, it's just free points.
Hey, at least it was covered somewhere.
Yeah. So then there's this Midtower, something between a full size and a mini. One of you, I was looking through everybody's "what junk do you have at home" assignment, and somebody has a Midtower size, like a really big gaming PC they've built. Beagle out. Sorry, I had to chase off a beagle momentarily. Okay. So disassembly is a process. It's not like,
That looks about right.
yeah, this is the way it usually goes the first time, is everything is kind of ruined. But if you're careful and slow, like we talked about earlier, you make notes and you stay organized, you can definitely rebuild it exactly as you found it. Now, the book will say this, and so will the CompTIA prep if you ever look at any. Step 1 is backup important data. And this is what they say. They'll say, what's step 1 to opening a computer? It is not opening the computer. I actually agree with this. This is what they're trying to say is exercise an extreme level of caution with a customer's data or with your mother's data, your brother, your friend, whoever's computer you're working on. The first question is, do I need to back anything up? And then whatever they say, don't believe them and back up everything. There's so many times, one of my best techs that I ever had work for me, a total perfectionist. The guy was like obsessed with getting everything exactly right to an extreme degree. And he went into a customer's office. He was supposed to reformat the hard drive and upgrade something. And he asked, as we always do I need to back up your data? And she said, no, I have everything on this flash drive and everything is automatically going to this external drive. I don't need a backup. And he said, I can do one anyway. And she said, no, I want this done quickly. So I have backed up. So don't waste your time backing up. Just hurry up and upgrade my computer and give me Windows 10. And he erased the drive, put Windows 10 on. And she said, both my backups have failed. Where's my data? Why didn't you back up my data? And he took this very hard, both the betrayal and the failure, even though I understood it. I didn't consider it his fault. But this will happen as people think they've backed up their data and they haven't. So you should, since you're the expert. Once you're certain there's no way you could lose anybody's data, now you're ready to turn off the system. Turn it off. Unplug it. These are the first physical steps to doing this. Unplug everything. Don't leave anything connected. It's tempting to just rip a computer apart in place when you're just going in for memory or something other small, but the smartest thing to do, the proper thing to do, is to unplug everything and give it a second. Draining the PSU, flipping the switch while it's unplugged, or some of them have buttons to do it, but letting it set for a couple minutes, whatever. Just make sure that there's no electricity flowing through it. An organizer is nice. I don't remember what NOIST stands for. Open the case. See, we're up to step 4, and now we are finally to what you would think is step 1, opening the actual case. But you can't rush to it. Older cases, you guys won't see this as much, although some of you, for your junk assignment, have showed that you have some pretty old machines. I saw one, at least, that the faceplate might have to come off to remove some of the parts. PC manufacturers got smarter about these things over the years. At one point, Apple got so smart about it, they designed a desktop that could be opened while it was on and everything connected to it, and you could see everything. It was the most brilliant design ever. So, of course, they patented it so no one else could do it, and then they abandoned it and have not used it for over 10 years. So the greatest design for any desktop I have ever seen no longer exists, and no one can use it. Awesome. Older cases might require side panels. The new ones do too. It depends on how much you spend. If you spec out a computer into probably a $30 to $50 PC case, you can expect probably a screw or 2 screws to take off the side panel, take off the back panel. It'll be a minor inconvenience. If you spend $150 or $200 on a case, it's probably going to swing open like a door. It's going to open up like a box that's meant to be open. There's nicer. That's the first thing you get when you spend a little more money on a PC case. It's convenience of getting into it. Here's my other slide to remind us to back up important data. Again, late at night, this looked like a really good slide to me. The book and CompTIA will talk to you about multimeters. You can use these while the PC's on. You can touch them to connections and they measure the current passing through it, or they measure the voltage, the resistance of the wire. I don't find these are needed very often. Usually I just plug in a thing and try to turn it on. And if it doesn't turn on, then I know that it's screwed electrically. But yeah, if your job was to do nothing but go through a mountain of power supplies and figure out which power supplies are good and which are broken, need to be thrown away or recycled, a multimeter is what you'd use. You just plug them in, touch the multimeter to the connectors, and give it a reading. And if it didn't read up to the code of a good compared to a good power supply, you'd chuck it. That's testing for continuity, which, of course, yeah, I think I was making a Game of Thrones. Yeah, Game of Thrones season 8 was about a year ago, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember. Well, at the time I was very hurt. We'll just move on from that slide. Okay, opening up the case. Tools or no? Just eyeballing the example I have here, it looks like 4 flathead screws, but you could probably turn those with your fingers. To get to the side panel, you would probably loosen this, 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 and this, and that's going to get the side panel off, and then you have access to everything inside. Front panel looks like a similar situation. If you needed to change anything about these fans, or you just wanted more airflow in the case, you could take the front panel off. So this one, probably no tools, although if any one of these is screwed on too tight, you're going to need a flathead screwdriver. And of course, you want to look at it and think about what side do I need to open. You don't want to take all the panels off. You only want to take off the 1 or 2 panels you need to take off to get to what you need to do. Security is also an issue, not in a case like this. Glass case, not great for security. But some Dells, if you were to say, take apart a computer in one of the labs at John A., it might be locked. It might have a little padlock on the back that prevents you from taking off the case or prevents you from opening it up. Or it might have a lock chain that prevents you from stealing it. Like you can't pick it up and move it anywhere, so you can't take it back to the shop to work on it. So that's what you want to think about. Do I need tools or not? Which side do I need to open to do what I got to do today? And then is there security I need to bypass? So we call this main part of it the case or chassis. And remember, you're always going to probably have to use multiple words to describe the same thing. You could say the box. You could say the case, the chassis, the whatever. Different websites, different books will call it different things. It's most important that you understand what it does, what it's for, and you can adapt your lingo when you're talking to someone else. Power supply or PSU, this big part down here. Motherboard, not pictured in this scene. Processor is probably with the motherboard. I don't see it sitting anywhere here. Memory is laying on the table here. And storage. These are the basic components you need to get a computer to turn on. And it shouldn't really matter what language they're in. For example, you should just look at this and go, what is this at the top left, guys?
It's a DVD player.
DVD player.
Yeah, some kind of optical drive, right? This is definitely RAM. We can see the word for RAM in Spanish is the same. Module is modulos, but motherboard is the same. Disco duro is a little different. What is this?
It's a hard drive.
It's a hard drive. We would call that a hard drive. And then the more insulting name we call them nowadays is what?
Just spinners.
Exactly, spinners, because newer hard drives don't spin. They don't have a rotating disk in them, and they are vastly faster, more reliable, lighter, use less power, create less heat, and suck less. What's placa de sonido? What do you think?
Audio.
Yeah, it's audio. My clue is that in the PC world, a green headphone jack means sound card. And I can see it there. I can see that there's other ones so that you could have a 5.1 like surround sound system. I don't know what the heck this would connect to. That's very old. Never seen one of those in the wild. And then in the center, look at this. In Spanish, they're calling it gabinete, which is cabinet. So again, another term for chassis or case. Fuente de poder. What is that?
That's your power supply.
Yeah, we're looking at it. We can see that there's power plugs. It's got a fan. It's got some power cables coming out of it. This is definitely the PSU, or power supply. Doesn't matter what language we're looking at. And then this guy up here, procesador, obviously processor, right? Pretty clear. It's most important that you can identify things by their function, and the CPU cooler. And nobody likes sound cards. So disassembly, one of the first things that come out in most builds, I can't imagine one where it wouldn't be, is if there's a big old graphics card, that's probably coming out first. If there's a Wi-Fi card or an Ethernet NIC, that might have to come out too. Those are usually smaller, but graphics cards are big. They take up a lot of space, and they tend to block the view of the memory, the processor, the cooler. So they're probably coming out quick. Plus, they're also not that hard to remove. Do they need tools? Possibly. They might be screwed in at one end and then just a little clamp that you hit with your finger on the other end. In this case, the person is pulling some other plug out of them. I'm not sure what this means, but the power connectors here up by their left hand have to be disconnected for it to come out. Then safe storage. Find a soft, dry place to set it down nearby. Don't let your cat lay on it. Mine try to destroy everything that I take apart. After that, you see this person has removed the graphics cards, the expansion cards. The processor looks like it's still there, but the cooler is gone. The memory is gone. The RAM is taken out. The hard drive is gone. Or maybe they're building this computer from the start. Maybe the motherboard's just the first thing they've put in. But the motherboard is typically the first thing you're going to put in when you build, or the last thing to come out, because everything else has to connect to it. It's almost got to be the primary piece. PSU is sometimes separate. Sometimes it has to go in first. And definitely disconnect everything. These things are tougher than they used to be, but still kind of fragile. So reassembly. When you have torn it all apart, hopefully you have notes. Hopefully you were organized. And once you have reversed your notes and put every single piece back where it goes, one by one, that's when what Skylar and I were talking about earlier, when I've put every piece together, I have plugged it in, I'm ready to turn it on, and when you hit the power button, it's going to attempt to post. This stands for power on self-test. What it really means is the motherboard is like a computer unto itself. And as soon as you hit the switch on the computer, if you have done everything right, that sends a signal to the motherboard, and the motherboard is receiving a tiny amount of power all the time from the power supply. And it tells the power supply, okay, turn everything on, give me all the power. And ideally, the power supply does so. And then the motherboard says, do I have a hard drive? Do I have memory? Do I have any other storage like DVD drives? What is this processor? Does it have level 1, level 2, level 3 cache? We'll get into that. It takes a quick inventory of every part of the computer that it can see or hear or talk to or feel. And then it tries to start up. And if it's got a monitor, it will output, it'll show the results of the post there. When you first turn on a computer, you hear sometimes you hear a beep, sometimes you just hear the fans come on, and then a bunch of crap appears on the screen. Sometimes tons of words, letters, gibberish go flying by. This is the post. And if it does that, you built it correctly. It will not get to that point if you have made a mistake. If you have forgotten to put the memory in, you're probably getting a beep and it might not post. If you've forgotten to put a graphics card in, or forgot to plug in the monitor, or didn't put in the processor, or the power's not connected, or the power switch is not connected. If you have made a mistake, it won't post. So when it posts, you can pat yourself on the back and relax a lot. Now you're just going to be fighting with Windows or Linux or whatever operating system you're putting on. The hardware part is a success. So memory, these big ones up here, These are for desktop computers, full size, very easy to install and remove. Pretty cheap to buy these days. Their prices have gone up and down over the years, but at the moment they're not terrible. And a SODIMM is for laptops and other compact environments. Sometimes all-in-one computers, stuff like that. And SODIMM stands for small outline. Yeah, and then DIMM is dual inline memory. You don't like all abbreviations. I tend to forget them or fudge them, or what my brain likes to do is make up new and inappropriate things that they stand for. So it's most important, as with everything, to remember what they actually do, what they're for, where they go, who they're compatible with. Like if I was looking at this one, I would instantly look at this tiny little text here. It's very hard to see, but DDR2 tells you at a glance, right away, you know what motherboards this will fit in and which ones it will not. If you have a DDR3 motherboard, this RAM won't work. If you have a DDR2 motherboard, you're good. You can use these. It does not appear to say how much RAM they are. Okay. Once you have the post, once the computer is starting up, at least trying to, you are going to have to think about drivers. You're going to possibly have to install drivers for some of the devices. You might have to put in a driver for the DVD drive. You might have to put in a driver for the graphics card. You certainly would. You might have to do a driver for Wi-Fi cards or anything else other than processor and memory. And even those can have drivers that make them work more efficiently. Does anybody know why you would ever not have to install a driver for something?
Not really.
Well, if you plug in a device and it just works, do you care if you install the driver or not? And why did it work?
I would assume the driver automatically installs.
That's right. You're absolutely correct. Windows and Linux and Mac OS, because they know they're going to be installed on some computer somewhere, they try to prepare. They include what we call generic drivers that will work with a lot of things. So if you take a new Dell right out of the box and you wipe the hard drive immediately, erase it, and install Windows 10, it'll boot. It'll start up, you'll get to the desktop, and then a bunch of stuff won't work. Windows will have successfully found a driver probably that works with the graphics card, but maybe can't go to the highest resolution or can't use an external monitor. Today, I was in the dean's office at work, and they were saying this laptop, we're connecting an external monitor to it, and the monitor will not come on, and they assumed the monitor was broken. And it was actually because the laptop had been erased. It was using the default generic Windows driver for the graphics card, and I went to the Dell website, downloaded the correct, it was a GeForce, whatever, 650M, some particular graphics card, downloaded it. Suddenly, the laptop worked with the monitor. And they were like, we switched cables, we switched monitors, we said prayers to various deities. They were desperate. And it was just the driver was missing. And it's deceptive. You know, Windows 10 does a better job than any previous version of Windows I have worked with at coming up with a generic driver so things will just work. It almost always gets mice, keyboards. It'll very often get Wi-Fi cards. In fact, I carry with me at work, because I'm a paranoid veteran of this stuff, a USB Wi-Fi adapter, a little tiny Cisco USB Wi-Fi adapter. And I've carried it for years because however they made it, however Cisco made it, this guy works beautifully with the Windows generic Wi-Fi driver. So no matter what computer I'm on, the Ethernet's dead, the Wi-Fi is dead, this something other, or there's no, it doesn't have any network capability. I can plug in that little thing and suddenly it has functional internet with no driver required. It's a lifesaver. So a driver is a little program that controls the device. It's, for certain pieces, absolutely essential. Certainly if you're making a gaming PC, you are trying to get maximum performance. Or if your customer is working in Adobe Photoshop or they're doing video editing and they're like, My screen is slow. The computer is slow when I'm trying to render video, or when I'm trying to draw things in 3D, or when I play video games. It's not performing well. It's probably the driver. And the BIOS boots up first, does its little post, boots up its little BIOS, then it boots the operating system, and the operating system is responsible for the drivers. So it's a multi-tiered thing. Cable management is good. Oh gosh, I should have pulled in the picture, but one of you submitted that you've built your own gaming PC, and it's beautiful. The cable management is perfect. You can't hardly see the cables, and everything is so organized. And as we discussed in the first lecture, the reason you do that is because someone else might come along and have to work on your PC. And if there's cables everywhere, you can't see what's what. And your first job is figuring out what everything is. But whoever built this computer kept it pretty clean, so it's very easy for me to come in and identify all the parts. In fact, one of the first things we're going to do in our first lab is very, very easy. We're just going to open up the side of the computer, and we're going to point to each part and identify. And because the cable management is so good on this one, this is beautiful. And it could be even cleaner. You could go crazy with it. But this is very clean. I can just go, there's the power supply. This is the graphics card. This is the water cooler for the CPU. This is the radiator for it. The CPU is definitely under there. And then this over here, this little guy looks like a solid state drive bolted to the chassis. And this looks like maybe a mid-tower chassis. It looks bigger than a mini tower, but not as big as a full tower. So I think that's what it is. And if they'd left a mess in here, my first job would be deciphering. But this is a wonderful, wonderful build here. Okay. That's most of the section on the desktop. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't at the moment.
No, I'm good.
Matt, Simran, Kayla, I see you joined us. Thanks for coming.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
So I had you for class in the spring
I'm very sorry.
for intro to networking.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Are we going to be meeting in that same building tomorrow?
It is that same room. It is that
Awesome.
room. And we took out half the chairs. There's only 8 or 9 chairs in there because the school's very serious about following the regulations and being careful with your safety. And I'm glad they're doing that. So make sure you look in your email at what time you were supposed to arrive. And Simran, I'll be if you're around, I'll stream it. If you're not, then I won't bother, but I'm happy to do it for you so that you can feel involved and see what everybody else sees, get at least the same visual experience that everyone else gets. And we will probably take stock of what equipment we have. We will learn where everything's located in the room. We'll go over some basic safety regulations, which is really just going to be nobody touch anybody else's stuff. The whole idea here is to make a germ barrier between each of your households and mine. So none of my germs should come to your household through this class, okay? So this class is not going to be a danger to you or your family in any way. We want to fill your head full of computer nerdy information. We don't want to get anybody sick. So that's basically going to be that. And we will figure out where your stuff is. If Rob has enough junk PCs, and he's hoping to, he thinks he will, have enough junk PCs that everyone will get one junk PC assigned to them. And we'll put tape on it, write your name on it. No one's touching that for the rest of the semester except you. And you'll be doing basically all your labs on it. And ideally, it will be a functional but terrible computer because someone gave these to Rob. He usually has a friend who works at a bank and manages to donate the bank's old computers. Usually they don't have hard drives, but they post. Remember that term, post. They will turn on. So we will first take stock of what we have, try to make sure everybody has a computer assigned to them, and plug them in and see if they turn on. And if they do, then we're good. You're going to identify parts in it right away. And throughout the semester, you're going to take those parts out and put them back in. By the end of the semester, you're going to be so sick of it that when I say, okay, today's your final, pull out the processor and show it to me. and you get an A. When we get to that point, normally, so far, as long as I've been teaching this a few years, everybody usually does it within 30 or 40 minutes. They're confident, they're comfortable, and it's no problem. It's very easy by the time that you're really tested on it, and you won't be tested on it until late November or December, okay? I want no pressure. I want everybody comfortable and increasing in confidence, okay?
Thank you.
That will be our lab. Oh yeah, I have a slide for it even. I'm here like talking and I have slides I could use. We will identify major parts on some random hardware. And Skylar and my other people who've already built before are thinking, oh, that's going to be so easy. Well, wait till you see the weird computers that Rob gives us. You just never know. Some of them are very strange. You will not all necessarily have exactly the same piece of junk to work on. And sometimes they're all-in-ones. Sometimes they're desktops, micro PCs. Sometimes they're very standard. One time we even got a semi-functional gaming PC donated to us. It was cool. So sometimes it can be tough to identify what is what in those. But that's part of the learning process, is I want you guys to be able to identify it. And then the assignment, which I'm going to post later this week on your D2L, is I would like each of you to submit a theoretical build. You don't have to build anything. You don't have to spend any money. I just want you to imagine that you have a customer. And your customer, I always use Homelander as my model customer because customers are psychotic and terrify me sometimes. Your customer has just bought a valve index. And I'm not going to tell you any more about the valve index. I want you to go and learn about it. Basically, I want you to pretend you are a full-time paid professional computer technician now. And a customer says, I bought this valve index. Now I want you to find me a computer that I can use it with, because I, being the customer, I bought the valve index not knowing that it required a computer. I thought I could just plug it into my phone. And you will have to decide between buying a pre-built machine and recommending a custom build. And you'll have to give me reasons why. And again, I'll have more details on this assignment for you on D2L. It'll all be written out. You don't have to remember any of this now, but start thinking in your heads about this assignment. Okay? And normally we'd break off into teams, but, you know, the plague, so probably no teams. Hooray. No group assignments for once in your college career. And the final form of your the final form of your submission will either be a PC part picker list, which I'll have a link to that website, or a pre-built Alienware computer, or if you want an F, pictures of Danny DeVito. I don't know why this is in here again. Late night slide construction. I'm sorry.
What happens if I do a PC part picker and Danny DeVito, but all the parts look like Danny DeVito?
I happen to know that can lead down a path towards bonus points. But PC Part Picker is a wonderful website. This is such a great place to practice building PCs. And this website, you say, it'll show you a list of thousands of cases with the pictures. And you go, that case. And you go, okay, that motherboard, that monitor. And it will tell you, oh, you've just picked a processor that will not work with this motherboard. You've just picked a motherboard that will not fit inside this case. It does all the hard part for you. It's so good for just theorizing and practice building. And then it will have a link to actually go buy the parts. It's very helpful. And many people in the community of this website will have uploaded builds. They will say, oh, I built this for my brother-in-law for his construction business, or I built this for a restaurant, or I built this for my own video gaming, or a customer said, I want a Photoshop computer for less than $800. Well, here it is. And it will show you every single piece they chose, and they can tell you why. It's very informative and very helpful. We'll use it a lot. Typically, throughout the semester, when I say, somebody build me a computer for a lawyer that needs this, this, and this, and has this requirements, I'm going to want you to submit a saved PC part picker build. So we'll use it a lot. And that's it. If there's no other questions, please take the quiz as soon as you can. You do have 2 weeks, but please don't procrastinate. Don't ask me for extensions. I'm giving you guys what other professors would describe as way too much time to take your quizzes. So don't burn yourselves on that. Okay, and some of you I'll see tomorrow at 5. Some of you I'll see at 6. Some of you I might see Wednesday at 5 or 6. But normally this first week of labs, we would just look at stuff, high-five each other, make fun of Rob, and leave. But we don't have time for that. And I still have a fear that the school will go full online. We could have other maintenance problems. If there's a spike in COVID cases, they could send us all home for the rest of the semester. And so while we can, tomorrow we're gonna go through the parts ID lab. We're gonna assign computers to people, assign seats and spaces to people. We're gonna get as much done as possible with our lab. Okay? Dope. I agree. Any other questions before we adjourn? Silence.
I'm in here.
I appreciate you all coming. I know tonight's not class time. Thank you very much for participating and recording the lecture. It makes it better for me, more fun for me. And then, of course, the questions you ask are good questions. So helps everybody that you're here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys tomorrow or Wednesday. And Simran, if you're around, I'll try to pop in Discord and check, see if you're around. But if you're not, it's okay. You and I have to 5 p.m., the usual class time.
Okay, perfect. I'll
But
be there.
you and I have another remote student. We're going to have to, as the semester goes on, figure out ways. But I'm going to give you a little extra time to find some equipment. But even if nothing else,
Can I recommend something?
Yeah, please.
On Steam, there's like a little game called like PC Builder.
I was going to suggest that, Simran. I asked Rob for 30 copies of that when COVID hit. I said, can you have John A. buy me 30 copies of the PC building video game? There is a PC building video game, and in the video game, have you heard of it, Simran?
No.
Do you or your brother play video games on Steam ever?
My brother does.
Okay. See if he has a Steam account already. It's like $20 or $30. It's optional for you, of course, but it might be worth your time. This is a very good simulation of what it's like to be a computer tech. It's very good at helping you learn the names of parts, the procedures, the order in which things go in. And the game is so accurate and looks so real that real manufacturers like NVIDIA and Intel and all these other real manufacturers have given the game like 3D copies of their equipment. So everything inside it looks absolutely real and authentic. And it could be a very good study tool for you if you can't find a junk PC to work on.
Okay, I'll get that.
Take a look at it, see what you think. And you can look it up on YouTube if you want to see it before you buy it. Just YouTube PC Building Simulator.
Got it.
Okay. And if you ever have any questions about that, let me know. I'll hop on Discord and go through it with you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to get there, everybody. Don't let COVID or any of this other crap get you down. We're going to fill your heads with computer junk. All right. See you next time.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Have a good night.
All right.